What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Today I'm working on the floor of the 57 Chevy some more. I'm getting ready to take some angle that I made and shape it around my wheel wells to get rid of the gaps. Like, I got a big gap there. It just doesn't fit properly. Like, this looks like crap. Gap up here, it just doesn't fit properly, right? So that needs to fit nice and tight, so it can seal up and be spot welded and then seam sealed and seal the floor. So this one is already done and completed. So this is what it'll look like when it's done, and I'll show you the other side too from inside the car. But like, it's nice and square and tight all the way around, back and around. Now the sheet metal screws will come out eventually, and this will all be spot welded and welded together. The way I'm doing that is I'm taking some 18 gauge cold rolled steel. I cut out 2-inch wide by 36 48-inch sections, bent them at 90 degrees straight down the middle. So now I have a 1-inch flange on each side. You can take that 1-inch flange and use your shrinker stretcher and move the metal to shape it and contour to follow that shape. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to reshape those to fit around the wheel well. Now let me show you the inside, and you'll get a better understanding of why I'm doing this. Let's go in here. So if you look, you can see like it's got a large radius. It's got a large rounded radius, and there's a gap, up there, right? And that large rounded radius goes all the way to the back. We'll go to the back and I'll show you the trunk. It's the same in the trunk. See, right there, especially right there. Like, that is a large radius, not tight, huge gap, looks like shit. So we're gonna fix that. We're gonna turn it and make it look like this one. Don't mind all the dust. See how this one is nice and tight gap all the way around there, all the way up and around, because that one has been done. Tight gap all the way around. That's what we want. So that's what we're gonna get. It's gonna take a little bit of work, a little bit of time, but totally doable, totally worth it. So I'm gonna get, first thing I did was I took a 1/2-inch piece of masking tape, wrapped it all the way around this, and then I took a marker, a Sharpie, and lined and gave myself a cut line. Now you have to get this out of the way so you can put, when you start shaping this has to be gone so this can go up in there and fit, and you can make sure that you're following it around properly. And then when it's followed around properly, I will have this up in there nice and tight, and then I'll take a scribe or another fine point marker and I will trace this, and then I will cut it out and it'll fit right in there and weld nice and tight. So I'm gonna use my air saw. I'm gonna cut a hole with my my cutoff blade so my air saw will fit in there, and then I'm gonna cut all the way around that and cut that out of there and get that out of the way so we can start shaping our metal. All right, so you can see it's all cut out all the way back to here. Now I will have to cut that out later on, but I want to get this piece completely done first. Now this will probably be done in a couple pieces because that's a lot. That is a lot to work with. So I'm going to try and just do, I'm going to do this piece right here. And then I'll do my neck, and it'll come up to about here. And then my next piece will come from here all the way around to there. So by looking at this, put my piece of metal up here. This needs to go that way. So this flange, this side of this flange, I'm going to stretch this flange and make this piece go like that. It's going to go like that. I'm going to linear stretch this. Now, what is linear stretch? Linear stretch is literally linear. So it's going to go, I'm stretching along this edge. I'm stretching up and down, vertical, linear. So I'll stretch here, and it's going to spread this metal out and cause it to bend, right? If I was shrinking this, it would pull this metal together and make it come this way. Like, I don't want it to come that way. I want it to go down. So that's why we're going to stretch. And then we'll have to shrink some also, because if you look up here, this comes this way, and then it goes this way and that way. So I will have to shrink and stretch and shrink and stretch until it fits. Now, you can do that a few different ways. Probably the most common method is using a kick shrinker stretcher, which is what I'm going to do right here. This is one of my kick shrinker stretchers. I have another set that's air powered, but this is a deep throat one, and this is typically my go-to, just because it's quick, easy. I do wish I had a second one because I hate swapping out my jaws, but right now it's set up for stretch. You can tell that by the jaws are close together. When it comes down, they pull apart, right? They come down, pull apart. So they're pulling the metal apart, hence stretch. The shrink ones have a gap in them. The shrink dies have a gap, and when those come down, they come together. So they grab the metal and they come together, squishing it together, shrinking it together. Hope that makes sense. Another way of linear stretching is with a planishing hammer, with linear stretch dies. I have a set of those. Hold on. This is a linear stretch die. So again, I would put the metal in here. I would put this in my planishing hammer, this on the bottom, a flat one on top, and it would do thousands of hits per minute and slowly stretch this out. I have another video on that. You can check it out. I'm linear stretching another piece of metal with the planishing hammer. If I remember, I'll post a link to that video in this video, but it works really, really well. A third method of doing that is with a hammer like this. This is called a linear stretch hammer. So you can put this on a solid piece of metal and just start hitting it, and it'll smash this down and literally stretch it out. This is going to take an extremely long time, but it's doable. I use this every once in a while to get into tight stuff, or like if I got to do it, you know, sometimes it calls for this. But right now, we're going to get to work on stretching this piece out to make it fit that. All right, so one key to shrinking and stretching with a kick shrinker is you want to do it even and consistently. So I'm going to start light pressure, just slowly doing it, not going all the way down, just lightly pushing it down my foot. And then I'll come out. See that pass, I was all the way up against the edge. Then I'll come out and I'll do another light pass and go back, and then I'll come even further and do another light pass. The further out, the closer you are to the edge, the more stretch you're going to get, the more movement you're going to get. But you want to do it evenly across the entire surface when you're doing this type right here. See, you can might be able to see it. I'm closer to the edge, and I got a lot more stretch. You can see it moving. Can't hold the camera and do this consistently at the same time. See, I got off in there. And you can get a really nice curves. And you can get, if you're consistent and even, they'll be perfect gradual curves. Let's see how we're doing. Got a ways to go. So I would say we're pretty good all the way up in here, and I need to start really stretching it right around in here to start bringing it around that way. So I'm going to put my finger right here just to hold it. There's our start point. You see I'm closer to the edge, and it's really moving now. It's really starting to take shape. It's really a good idea to use a marker and mark where your start and stops are, so you can come back to the same exact spot every single time. And see, like that quick, I've already got a curve that much. But you can see I still got a long ways to go. Okay, see, like it's going to need some fine tuning up here. I know that, but that's really close. Like that, I could actually squeeze that together. So that's really good. I don't want to stretch up there anymore. You know, if I've gone too much, I can shrink it back up and bring it in. But I think that's probably good. So I'm going to continue on and get the rest of the shape. And then if I have to go back and shrink that to tighten that up, I can do that. You can always go backwards with this type of stuff. Metal is clay. Whatever you do, you can undo majority of the time. So right now it's starting to come off a lot right here. Come off of the wheel well. So that's where I'm going to put my mark. And that's where I'm going to start stretching it some more to bring it around the rest of the way. Now you want to do a little bit. You want to do a little bit and then check it. A little bit and check it, because you can go too far really quick. I might have gone too far here. See? See, I gone too far. I went too far. I went too far in this section right here. You see how there's that big gap right there? So I'm gonna have to shrink this back down to tighten that gap up and then spread my stretch marks out going this way more. I did too much in this area. So now I'm going to shrink this to bring that back and then start stretching further on down. To shrink it, instead of changing my dies, I'm going to come over and use this one and show you this one as well. Now this one, these are Lancaster. Lancaster. I don't know if you can see that in the video. Nope. But this is a Lancaster model shrinker stretcher. I have one of each, so I don't have to swap my jaws. And then this is a Mittler Brothers stand with an air-powered actuator on a foot pedal. Now, I'm still not sold on this thing. I still think just the regular foot powered is good enough. The reason I bought this was because I wanted to make sure that I was being consistent, but if I'm being totally honest, I think it was a waste of money. I can do just as good with just a regular foot pedal. So, but this is the shrink, so now we're gonna shrink back some of this up because I went too far, like I said, right? There, 3 shrinks. Let's go check it. I think that's probably should do a little bit more right in there. Yeah. So right here. Look at that. It's a nice curve. Flanges are still flat. Angle's still there. Like, these things do a really good job. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to start stretching, but I'm going to spread my stretch out to come along here more. I'm going to start spreading my stretch out and bring it down this way a little bit more so I can bring that back around. I might even shrink a little bit more here, but it's going to go, I'm going to go back and forth, shrinker, stretcher. If you know what I'm doing, you can see what I'm doing. You're seeing the concept. So I'm going to pause the video, get this wrapped around, and then I'll come back. So I wanted to give an update of where I'm at on this fitting this first piece on this wheel well, because I've had to use other tools besides the shrinker stretcher. I've had to use body hammer, toe dolly, chisel, and a ball peen hammer, and my vise. But you can see, like, it's finally starting to take shape. The reason why I had to use those other tools is because this is not a perfect 90-degree between this and this. The floorboard comes in like this, and then this comes out like this. So the angle is greater than 90 degrees. So I had to take the chisel and tap this in here like this. I took the chisel and the hammer and tapped along that edge, right, to drive that corner up up in there, essentially squeezing these flanges together. By driving that corner up in there, it bent those flanges together closer. And that got it tighter to the wheel well. Then I took my toe dolly and put it up here. And this is where I'm at right now, is just tapping these things together. And making that flange round over and match the wheel well. Now all this is going to get trimmed off. Like this is going to get trimmed off to match that the flange that I'm putting in. So that's where I'm at. It's getting really, really close. I still have to do some more shrinking and stretching right around in here. Maybe just twist that. Maybe hit it with the chisel probably hit it with the chisel just to tap it in. And then up here, it's starting to come off again. So I will go in here and stretch right around in here to bring that back down. And it'll come up flush. But it's fitting really, really nice. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to keep moving on. But yeah, that's where we're at. Sometimes when you're doing this stuff, it seems like you just got to beat it into place. Now, I'm beating it meticulously. I'm doing it in a specific area with specific intentions. I'm not just wailing on it. I'm literally forcing that corner up into the wheel well and bringing these flanges together. Once this thing's formed and set, like it'll just like snap right there. And then we'll take little pressure just to hold it in. And then I'll be able to scribe it, cut it, and slip it right into where it's supposed to be. All right, so I can see that it's wrapped around. I can tap that with the toe dolly and bring that up. But right in here is where I stopped stretching this edge. I stopped stretching. I could see it from the marks. That's where I stopped, and that's where it goes straight. So I need to continue my stretch around here, just light stretches to bring this around to close up that gap. So I'm gonna hammer toe dolly this, and then take it off and stretch that out to bring that around. And you see I put witness marks in here to know exactly where it goes every single time. And while I take it off, I'm going to stretch in here too to bring that back down as well. Back over to the stretcher. You just got to slowly creep up on it. You can't do a whole lot at once. You got to slowly creep up on it. And see, it's starting to get closer and closer every single time I do a kick stretch on it or shrink. It gets closer. And sometimes you got to go back and forth. Like it takes a lot of time. You hardly ever nail it the first try. If you look at this gap down here, hold that right there. That gap right there at the corner has closed up. So I just need to do a little bit more right where it starts to come off. It starts to come off right there, right here. So that's where I'm going to start stretching a little bit more right there, just to bring that around to follow that. Yeah, I'll just stretch a little bit more right there, and then it'll follow that curve. Up there, it's getting really, really close. Like I could probably tap that in. But I think I will stretch it right there just to get that corner. All right, that piece is fitting really, really well. Check it out. Nice and tight all the way around. There's little gaps right there you can see, but once I trim this out, you got to think that it's still sitting on top of some metal, and there's some high spots in there. Once I trim this out, that thing's going to suck in 1 metal thickness and should line up perfectly. We'll go check out the inside, and you can see how nice and tight it is around that corner now, around that wheel well, and see exactly why I did this. Okay, you can see it's nice and tight all the way around that. So when I weld this up and then spot weld the other flange to the wheel well, like this will be able to get a seam seal and seal all that up around that, and it'll be completely nice, clean, and look like it's supposed to, not the huge gap that was there before. Now the next step for me to do is to trim it, or make a line, and then I can trim it off. Now, like I'm using a Sharpie ultra fine point, like Mike Wagner from Cornfield Custom says, aim small, miss small. So that's why I'm using a fine point marker. So when I go to cut this, if I'm off the line just a little bit, it's going to be minimal. So aim small, miss small. Now there's my cut line. Nice fine line. It's not super wide like those ones. See, like those ones, if that's a normal Sharpie, if I use that, that's a lot of gap to fill up when you're TIG welding. If you can get a fine line and stay like that right there, that's going to weld up a lot better. Your fitment is going to be a lot better. And when you're TIG welding, fitment is key. If you can get your fitment perfect every single time, your TIG welds are going to be much, much better. So I'm going to use the air saw, cut that out, and then get that one up into place. And then I'll start on the next one. Alrighty, I got everything cut out. It's all cut out, ready to go, ready to start tacking the piece in. But before I did, I wanted to make sure and show you, I weld through primer all the pieces that you can't get to afterwards, that are sealed up. I weld through primer up everything, make sure that it's all good to prevent any kind of corrosion. This floor structure, you can see there's gold all the way around all of it. That's because I weld through primered the floor structure and the floor pieces before I welded them on. So there's weld through primer inside of everything. Everything that I built has got weld through primer in there. So let's get this thing clipped in there, and I'll start tacking it in. And I'm gonna have to hammer and dolly, or hammer and move stuff around to get it to line up, but shouldn't be too bad. All right, I'm going to tack it into places that are flush, and then I'll start tapping and moving as needed to get it tacked in the rest of the way. And I will tack every 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch around this, and then I'll put sheet metal screws in it to hold it in place through the wheel well, and then I'll try and fully weld this in as minimal passes as possible. You get the gist of the idea. I got to move around and tack this thing all the way along it. I got to move around, tack this thing all the way along it, moving the metal to make sure that it's perfectly lined up. As you weld stuff, it moves around a little bit. So my fitment was pretty good. Wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. But I could get everything to line up before I welded it. Now with the welds, it shrinks and it moves. And I don't have any help, so I can't hammer and dolly it to stretch that weld back out. So I gotta do what I gotta do. So I'll get it figured out. I'll get this fully tacked up and ready to weld out, and then I'll probably start on the next piece before I fully weld this. Alrighty, it's all tacked in. Went fairly smoothly. Had to just tap it in. Just give it a little tappy tap. But you can see, like, it's all tack welded along here. And then I went in and sanded down the tack welds. So it is ready to fully weld from here all the way down, all the way around, and right there. And I'll be able to hammer and dolly this to fill in that little gap right there. But it's looking really good. It's tight on the inside as well. So now I'm going to start on this piece. I'm going to take a measurement from here, wrap it around, and come all the way up to the end of this. And then I will cut a new piece out. I'm going to take, these flexible tapes for like measuring upholstery or, you know, stuff like that. Measuring around, they're flexible, like, yeah. So, start here and follow the curvature of the floor. So I'm going to go 29 inches. Give me a little extra. Yeah. So I got my new piece. I'm going to trim this to 29 inches. Same exact process as I just did, using the shrinker stretcher, except this one will go a lot faster because there's only one curve, really. One curve. This over here, it's so sharp, I can't shrink that. I have to literally cut a piece out. On the bottom one, I cut a little triangle out. So that's what I will have to do again. Cut a little triangle out, and then I section and notch this, because this probably not going to film anything else. Actually, I can call it into this video, because you can see what they look like at the end, as the one down on the bottom that I already showed you. So that's what they look like when it's done. Nice and tight, all along the edge, and sealed up. Ready to be spot welded. So I'll finish that off, and yeah, there's nothing really else to show on this video. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button. Share the videos, and I'll catch you on the next one.